Welcome to At Your Service, the service management podcast on the CRM Audio Network, with your hosts, Shawn Tabor and Scott LaFonte. We have a new segment on the At Your Service podcast, the Resco Minute. This is where the fine folks from Resco provide us with tips, tricks, and sneak peeks into the new functionality within Resco Mobile CRM. If you're familiar with field service, or as I should actually say, Dynamics 365 for field service, then you're familiar with the Resco Mobile CRM client and the Woodford solution. So I guess what I'll do is I'll turn it over to Agnes Vaľková. She's Director of Marketing for Resco, and they're going to talk a little bit about the latest spring release.
My name is Agnes. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Resco. Today I basically would love to just give you guys a bit of a run through about who Resco is and what we're offering and what we actually have to offer. Resco is actually a leading provider of mobile solutions for Microsoft Dynamics 365. And I'm going to discuss with you a bit about our spring release of Resco Mobile CRM, which was released this year. The new additions from the spring release 2018 are actually available on iOS, Android, and Windows to all Resco customers and partners. So let's take a bit of a closer look at the most important updates. Maybe just to kind of give a brief overview of how we're actually directing our product in terms of who is it geared for. So, be it a repair or a service, inspection or a maintenance or a visit, or even just a simple sales call, the ability to generate a document such as a PDF or a Word or Excel file at the end of the process is often very crucial. This might require generating documents on a mobile device and without connectivity. This is actually where Resco mobile reports come in handy. I'm part of the standard Resco mobile application, and it's configured via Woodford, our configuration tool, and then they can be used to create summaries and other kinds of reports with just a few clicks. But, however, at the end of the day, the visit and the generated document might require a signature, for example, where the customer agrees that, okay, this is a repair which has been done, or the data reported to the technician is correct, and depending on the legislation, not any kind of signature might do. There might be strict regulations on what parameters might be captured with the signature to make it legally binding, okay? So here, Resco actually relies on verified third-party solutions that provide the necessities. So with our spring release, we're actually introducing support for UniverSign as part of the mobile report signing process. And now the users can sign a generated PDF document via UniverSign, which actually inserts a legally valid signature and all the required, all the requirements into the file, and on top of that, a command. Basically, the support for another popular service for signatures is, of course, maybe a very well-known one, DocuSign, and this is already actually in the making. Maps, just kind of delving a little bit more deeper now, are essential for effective mobile operations. So the ability to display records on the map, based on geographic information that's present in records, is a pretty standout feature of Resco Mobile's client, and it provides immediate value to the mobile workforce. So with our spring release, we've improved the situations where there are just too many accounts, appointments, or other work orders to be outlined on a single map. And there, it actually it doesn't make sense to show just a sea of pins, and rather we'll, combine the pin, which are the pins that are approximate or within approximity, into one aggregated pin. So with a number of indicating how many records are actually hidden in this location. So after clicking on or tapping on such a pin, a list of records is displayed with the ability to drill down into the form, for more details and insights for each of the items that are, grouped together. To display any record on the map, you need to have location data, so latitude and longitude present in your system. And this is not always immediately available, so especially for existing records. To make the process of geocoding existing data as easy as possible, Resco actually provides geocoding as a module in Woodford, so our configuration tool. And after inserting Bing Map, Bing Map key, you're actually able to select entities and their address fields, which will be used to resolve the GPS position of the record via Bing Map services. So in our spring release, we've greatly enhanced the filtering options. So geocoding, even large data sets should now be a piece of cake, really. And of course, your field technicians might often operate in areas or locations where connectivity, is a problem, and working with their data and applications offline without any limits is absolutely necessary. And since you are listening, that Resco is the key to effective mobile work situations such as these. And at the heart of this synchronization, or I would say at the heart of this is synchronization, the process of keeping server and local data is key to keep it up to date. And we always try, strive to improve our synchronization engine in every release. In our spring update, we've actually made a couple of interesting tweaks. So for example, if the same record has been updated on the mobile device while offline and on the server, the user will get a synchronization conflict upon a sync attempt. So there are configurable strategies for dealing with these situations, and the new addition is a way to manually merge the documents. So users will see values from fields in the CRM server, and of course, and the local copy, and select which will appear in the merged record. So the similar experience is used for merging duplicated records, where there are additional options to treat, the child records. So directly in the mobile app, users can select 2 or more records, which represent the same account, contact, lead, or any entity, and combine them into one. Resco offers great support for documents and multimedia content, and it can actually be downloaded from sources like SharePoint or Google Drive, and associated to records and, which is displayed in-app. However, these files are usually large and can take up a significant amount of synchronization time. And that is why we've added a setting to automatically switch to background synchronization for documents. So data synchronization for standard records can still happen in the foreground. But for all the documents, the app will move the sync to the background, which allows the user to work with the app. Okay? And maybe just to kind of close this off, finally, just to streamline the support process for our customers and partners, we now offer the option to send synchronization logs as part of the sync. So this means that teams offering first level support and are able to see information about the mobile application behavior immediately in the CRM and don't have to instruct mobile users to send the details just after the problem happens. I mean, this should save a great deal of time, effort, and in turn, a lot of money. If you'd like to know about, more about Resco, please visit our website. It's www.resco.net. You're more than welcome to reach out to us, and whether you'd like to see a live demo or even just to create your own, trial, you're able to work with Woodford, the mobile app, and see and get a taste and feel for what we offer. So thank you for joining us, and I'm going to hand it over to the other side. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of At Your Service, the service-related podcast on the CRM Audio Network. Today's a big day for a couple of reasons. We have a new sponsor, as you might have just heard. We're now sponsored by Resco, the fine folks at Resco. Had a great time at the Resco.next conference, and I'm happy to have them aboard as our sponsor. And we look forward to collaborating with them on segments in the future. And secondly, but probably immediately most importantly, I have a couple of guests that I'm very excited to have. One of which I've been trying to get for a while, and Mark Smith beat me to the punch. which caused me to change what I wanted to talk to him about. Thanks a lot, Mark, in your clever little accent. But that's none other than Mohammed Mostafa. How you doing, Mohammed?
I'm very well, thanks, Shawn, and thanks for having me.
I am happy to have you, my friend. I wanted to record this during the MVP Summit, and just timing just did not work out. That was a wild bit of business there. NDA covered throughout, of course. And my other guest, she's been missing, and we started looking at milk cartons, trying to see if her picture was on it, because we haven't had any diva time in quite some time, probably a couple episodes, and so I had to bring her back, and it's the diva herself, Sarah Jelinek. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Shawn. Thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Well, today brings us together because we're going to talk about the release notes for 9.0.2, which is the upcoming April release. And as I'm sure everyone has heard, if you have a 9.0 organization right now, you're going to start getting the update April 7th. There's nothing to schedule, nothing to do on your part. It's just going to come. And it's chock full of enhancements. So, which is kind of crazy because the way that they're presenting this as a dot release as opposed to a full release, you would think there's enough functionality in here for a full number upgrade. Wouldn't you guys think?
I would think so. I looking at the release notes and the capability that's there, I was like, wow, this is nice. I'm looking forward to it. But I would have expected a huge first number increment change.
I mean, because the release notes by itself, I mean, Mohammed, you're looking at 221 pages of release notes.
Exactly.
That to me does not say dot upgrade.
No, absolutely not. Stretch. And we have a brand new module, which is the Dynamics 365 for marketing, brand new and straight out into the field for testing. So I guess it's it's a big announcement, and as you said, just to have it as a dot release is probably an understatement. But nonetheless, I think there's quite a few other things that are very exciting as well that I can think of, and hopefully we can talk about in this episode.
Sure. And, obviously we're going to focus on the service-related aspects because there's a lot to that. But one other area that I do want to talk about is the big announcement with the Common Data Service and Power Apps. That is huge. The ability that it is going to enable us to create Power Apps for field service, customer service, project service. I mean, that kind of integration and that level of ease of integration in a current project that I'm on gave me an amazing idea for a Power App that I'm going to try to do. And I don't know a lot about Power Apps, I will admit, so my learning curve is going to be a little steep in the short term, but we're going to work on that, and hopefully I'll be able to find some fruition there. But what are your guys' thoughts initially about the whole CDS announcement, CDS 2.0, I guess, and Power Apps, and what capabilities that brings out for us?
I think for me, I've had a little bit of exposure to Power Apps. I think when it first came out, and I saw, wow, this is really neat. I'm not necessarily a Visual Studio .NET developer, and this is something that I can do. I'm familiar with putting functions in and, kind of using a graphical interface. I think getting to use that and having an even more deeper integration with Dynamics 365 for customer engagement, looking at the capabilities there, just reading through the release notes, I'm like, oh, this is going to make my job much easier. When people say, I just want a nice, simple form to enter information. And, being able to do that on a mobile device and having that capability, I think it's huge. And I love the fact that it's all going to be built on kind of that same platform that I've been used to customizing for over 10 years.
Right. And Mohammed, have you had much interaction with Power Apps?
I did, although I'm not an expert. However, I think it's a great idea, to be honest. I think the fact that you now have XRM becoming CDS or CDS becoming XRM, it's a fantastic idea. It means there's a lot less work, especially for folks like us on the Dynamics 365 customer engagement side. It's an overdue in my view, because we all want to work very closely with the wider platform, Dynamics 365, finance and operations, and all the other systems. And with CDS, with having this new announcement, it means it's a lot easier. It means we can access Power Apps. We can access Power Apps a lot better, but we can also integrate with other systems that we've always wanted to.
Exactly, and I'm really looking forward to the improvements you can, like for example, if you're working across field service, customer service, and project service, and you have those folks in the field, using something like Power Apps to enable multiple interactions with Dynamics 365, I think is personally exciting, especially if you're able to launch that Power App from the Resco Mobile app for field service purposes. That gives a seamless integration perceived by your field service workers that I think is going to be really cool. So I'm really looking forward to jumping in and playing with that.
I agree, and I think if you also think, Shawn, about the fact that now you've got almost like a transactional database that comes alongside Dynamics 365, because the wider integrations and transactions, it means that we can do a lot more with customer engagement than we currently do, and we have access to a lot more data, and we can integrate with a lot more systems in a much more reliable way. So it just lends itself to the whole complete story of having a single business solutions platform, which we're all aspiring to achieve.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump in. Let's start off with looking at the release notes for 9.0.2, and let's start off with customer service. So we have in a summary, we have some compliance, some customer service, and some unified service desk enhancements coming in the spring 18 release. For compliance, and Mohammed, I'm not going to make you talk about it, but there's throughout this release there are GDPR enhancements. If you want to know more about GDPR, I encourage you to listen to the Mark Smith Practice Podcast with Mohammed. They talked about it a lot and in depth.
Yeah.
So we're not going to go into it here. I love talking about it, and in the episode we did from the Resco conference, they actually got together my guests and said, let's see if we can get him to say GDPR, and when he does, punch him in the shoulder. So it was pretty easy to get me to say it because I'm excited about it and what we can do with it. But take a look at the release notes, and there's a lot of GDPR investments throughout this release in all the different modules. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
And it is good news for us. Just the last sentence on GDPR. I have to say it's a very good news for us to have GDPR embedded in almost every module. If you go through the release notes, you'll find the word GDPR pretty much in every module, and at the start of the module description or the new feature description, and towards the end as well. So it's good news. It means Microsoft is taking this extremely seriously, which we all know, and it helps us, especially everyone who works with EU data, wherever they are based.
Right, and it actually came up this week for me with a customer, because I just inquired about their what they're doing for GDPR, right?
Yeah, and
I was able to say, well, in the next release we have a lot of capabilities to take care of that. So why don't I send you that information now that the release notes are out, and you could take a look as an organization where your gaps are, right? Because of course, what's provided within the foundation of Dynamics 365 now doesn't take care of every single use case for GDPR compliance, right? It's more of a task list monitoring, gives you kind of heads up on what you should be doing, but there are still gaps that you may need to fill in with custom development or other solutions. So just keep that in mind and take a look at those and understand where it fits for your organization.
Absolutely.
But then the next one, Customer Service Hub. So Customer Service Hub's now going to be on the Unified Interface Framework, and I'm excited about this. I think this is really cool. A lot of good information. This is basically what used to be the Interactive Service Hub, but reborn, I guess you could say, in the Unified Client.
What are your thoughts, Sarah, about the customer service hub?
Well, I think it's great. I mean, when people look at it, it's really nice. It's attractive. It's beautiful. I think it's a kind of taking the term that it took over, interactive. It seems very interactive, very user friendly. Being able to drill into items on your dashboard very nicely, and I like the navigation. It's kind of nice and clean. Looking at the business process flows and having that kind of pop out as opposed to taking up the first third of your screen. I'm kind of liking that capability, but from another perspective that is close to home for me is the capability that we're going to be able to utilize that within Unified Service Desk and have much more support with that. I think that's going to be exciting because it's hard for people to pick, okay, do I use USD or do I use this new, customer service hub when I'm planning my implementations? And I think being able to have the best of both worlds is going to be really beneficial to customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how they've already provided you with a tier 1 and a tier 2 dashboard so that it's more of a configuration of the roles to get the data that you need. So they're giving you a head start on that as well. And it's a multi-stream dashboard, again, in the vein of the interactive service hub that we had in the past, where the numbers, are dynamically updating as incidents come in or as activities are opened. You're getting your kind of a sense of a timeline with your active cases, which is great. Color coding with severity you can do. It's a really neat dashboard and interface for the customer service worker.
Yeah, I especially like the timeline feature. I think that's huge, and I know a lot of customers that would be looking forward to having that capability of just seeing that history before they even pick up the phone and talk to the customer or even start composing an email. What's the order of events that have been happening, and that's a really neat control for them to see that, get that high level overview. Is there something that's due, what's active, what's closed, what do we need to look at right now? It's really exciting to see that capability.
Right.
Yeah.
And Mohammed, how are you looking at this to implement soon with any of your implementations, or what do you see about it that really jumps out to you?
So I am looking at it for existing customers to almost use that as a layer, a much better UX on top of what they've already got to start with. And that feeds to the point that, in my view, one of the best things about this Customer Service Hub, all the new nice new look for it, is it's based on Unified Client Interface, or the UCI or UI or whatever the term we're going to have to settle on. But and I don't think we can even call it new anymore. Now it's been released since end of last year, and I'm already using it with all my clients. And the best thing about the UCI interface is that everyone loves it, or at least everyone I met and I presented or demoed Dynamics 365 to, they love it. I'm sure there are still areas of improvements, but compare that to some of the gaps and the issues we had, especially around the huge white spaces that we had before, with the previous interfaces and so on. This just got it right. So I have to say I'm in love with the UCI, and anything built on UCI I think is going to look great. And it also helps with the user adoption, because it's not just about getting customers to choose Dynamics 365, but also making sure that getting staff and employees and users to love using Dynamics 365. And I think this new interface will help us a lot with that.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, the hub, the customer service hub, is responsive. So even on a mobile device, you're able to take advantage of the features, which is really cool.
Absolutely, and it means that I can build once and it goes into every device. I don't have to be thinking about, I'm going to have a new form for this to work on my mobile phone. I have to have a new form for that to work on my iPad.
Right.
No, actually, it works on all devices. You built it once and it works on them all, and it's it really does. And I'm talking from practice, from live projects that I've just finished very recently. It works on any device. So imagine you've got your customer service hub running on whatever device you want to give to your customer service advisors.
I'm very excited about that, especially to Sarah's point, integrating that with Unified Service Desk as well. So, and did they change the name of is it Unified or Universal Service Desk?
Oh, now you get me second guessing myself. I think it's still going to be Unified Service Desk. Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to find out a little later in the notes here, but I can't remember if they changed it because it used at one point I think it was unified resource scheduling. Then it went universal resource scheduling. They can never make up their mind. But,
that's why we only use you.
Exactly. Yes. You just use the acronyms and then you're safe.
I still think they call it Unified Service Desk. I looked at it quickly.
Okay. All right. Good. I always get my my U's mixed up. The next really cool feature that we have is business process flows for standardized case handling. So a couple of neat things about this is with the update to the business process flows, it does support floating and docked mode for process stages, which is really cool. You can take a look at the case information and update the process stages simultaneously, and it gives a little more. It cleans up the UI, in my opinion, because you don't have a third of the top of the form taken up by a process flow that you may or may not be using.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I really like that.
Yeah, I love the idea of a business process flow. Not everyone kind of jumps on board with it right away. As much as you try to encourage them to say, hey, this is a great process for your people that don't quite know what to do. You want to provide them that step-by-step instruction. Right. And for those that just say, no, we're absolutely not adopting it, to disable it, make sure it doesn't show up for everybody. If it's there, if they're sort of using it, they're not using it all the way. Yeah, I guess it'd be a little bit annoying to have to, minimize that. And especially when you're helping a user that's got a really low resolution on their monitor and you can see very little. I like it. It's a little aesthetic, but I think it's still beneficial to say, I just want to focus on this stage right now, not be confused by the other items at the top.
Well, and I think what it also does is it lends some credence to, let's say you have that customer who's hesitant to deploy the business process flows. You can, with this UI, you can do some retrospective analysis of your cases to find out of those attributes within the process flow that are pulled in from the form, how many of those things you're actually filling out. You know
exactly.
what I mean? Without having the headache of the third of the top form taken up. So exactly. I'm excited about that. That's going to be really cool.
And the fact that you have it floated and docked in a docked mode, that really helps as well, because it almost becomes like a checklist, a proper checklist that you can go through. But if you want more information, you can look at the form. So if you look at the screenshot, for example, provided with this new feature, you can see lots of text on the form, lots of things that have been happening, related knowledge-based information, timeline, and so on. But with your step-by-step or steps in your stage, you can go in and tick boxes and confirm you've done actions, you've taken actions, you've completed tasks throughout the process. So it's almost like the script that you have on USD on the left-hand side. You can literally use that within the business process flow, or you can use BPF like that.
Right. And when you're looking at the screenshot provided in the release notes, and we will add the link to the release notes in the show notes. I'm sure everybody has them already, but this will give you an easy way to get to them. Which one thing you're not seeing is white space.
Yeah,
very densely packed set of information, but not annoyingly so. Right? You don't have like information on top of information. It's very well defined. It's very well segmented and proportioned, and I like that a lot.
Absolutely.
So the next thing we have in customer service is timeline view of customer interactions and activities. So with the concept here is you're going to be able to capture those customer interactions and communications by adding as activities like you normally would, but it's in the timeline section of the dashboard. So this for the first time, there's a dashboard within the actual case object. Right, so you could see graphically what it is, how many interactions you've had on this case, which will really help not only the customer service agent, but their supervisor, manager, and up. Right, because you're gathering those kind of metrics. You can look at and see whether there was an email received, any follow-up tasks, automated system posts, and any notes taken in those interactions, and it's all chronological. So this is a real improvement to what we used to know as the social pane. It gives you that upfront, up top information in a summary fashion, and then you can drill in through a chronological step through in the timeline. And I think that's especially for a customer service agent, that's really how they want to see that information very quickly and easily.
Yeah, absolutely. As working with customer service, I want to see the latest and greatest. What was most recently recorded, and I think liking the idea of, like you say, seeing the posts, seeing the activities, seeing the notes, being able to quickly add a note while I'm looking at the activities. It seems like it's so simple, but it makes a huge impact. I have a lot of people that do case management, maybe not in the customer service respect, but more of just, I'm working with my clients and maintaining their cases, that type of situation, that being able to just quickly put a note in while they're looking at that information saying, note, I need to follow up with this person, or note, need to schedule something, so that they just know that, here's my next step, here's my next action for this individual.
Yep.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and they've gotten rid of the short links for adding a task or an appointment, and just consolidated that within the plus sign navigational element, which I am a big fan of.
Yes. Because
the problem was, what if I don't want to add a task or an appointment? I want to add a phone call. Then I got to go somewhere else, for example. This way, it's all in one spot. Training's much easier. If I want to add something other than a note, I'm clicking a plus sign.
I agree. And I think it's also important that there will be some users in some cases where customers want to see the data in a different order, or they want to see a specific type of data. So I think it's always important that I tell my customers, remember, there is a filter pane. You can open up the filtering and filter on exactly what type you're looking for. And you can also change the sorting order. So instead of doing it from the latest to all the way to back in time when this case has started, you can actually look at it from the other way around, and you start from when it was started, and you can scroll down to see how it has progressed through time. And I actually find this very useful because in certain scenarios, customers want to see how this case has started, who raised it, what happened to it, who created notes, and they go into it like this. So rather than scrolling all the way down and then starting from the bottom, they actually start from the top and go down. I think it's a good feature.
And something that I think, someone who's been working with Dynamics forever, like we have, I've been since 3.0. One of the things that I am excited about, and I think this was just an initial 9.0 feature, but this spring release has really brought it to the forefront for me, was the ability to have those kind of tabs to where you can, in the screen grab, it's showing, it doesn't show it in that screen grab, but you could have summary, you could have details, you could have case relationships, SLA, etc., and that's definable. So instead of having the little hamburger where you're picking the section, you're clicking on the hyperlinks, and it's taking you to those sections in the form, which I think is really great.
Oh, yes. I think we could dedicate a session just to talk about the importance of having those tabs back. And if you remember how we used to have them before, and then we lost them, and now they're back, and I can tell you they are very useful for many customers, and I'm sure you both have seen this. But I would say there's one step further that I would like to see on this, which is to be able to dock this tabs. I don't want it to scroll down with the rest of the form. It will be great to have it always at the top, so I can scroll the rest of the form but keep the tabs docked, even if it's like an option. So it's good, but it's not there yet for me. Although it's a magnificent roll back to how it was, and the benefits of having tabs.
Well, I tell you what, Mohammed, if you go ahead and go out on the Ideas site or whatever the portal is now for Ideas and add that as a suggestion, I will +1 it for sure.
Perfect.
Yes,
I'll do that.
I will +1 it. We'll share it with everyone to +1 it, because I agree. I think that's huge. A lot of people tend to forget about, we have a customer who's got a really long form, lots of great information on there. And it's a challenge because we're like, okay, scroll down, and you're helping them, providing assistance, and you're watching them slowly scroll.
Right.
And then I think they forget about those shortcuts as many times as you tell them. Right. They forget about it, and then having that capability there. But I definitely agree. Having it docked, keeping it there always to know what is on my form, what do I have to do, I think it's huge. It's going to be interesting getting back into that mindset like we had with 3.0. And oh, remember, there's other tabs at the top we click on to access information. Yep.
Yeah, it's exciting times.
Yep.
There's so much stuff in here. It's insane. The next item, and Sarah, I'm sure you'll have a lot to talk about in this one. Search for knowledge articles on the reference panel. You are such a big fan of the knowledge article and all that it provides. So just from here, I mean, it looks like it's doing your standard knowledge article keyword search, and returning the number of results by relevance, or you can sort it by other factors. But how do you see that being something that stays on your case form, or do you think it takes up more real estate than it needs to?
I think it's a crucial part too. Not just customer service, but I think really any form. You can utilize this anywhere. You could use this in your case, obviously in your cases, in your accounts, your contacts, your opportunities, and any records anyone needs to work with. I think knowledge base is not something that's just applicable to customer service. It's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is going to be a big part of it. And for a good number of my customers, this is a big part of their form, because this is where you get your new customer service reps, don't know really what to answer right away. I want to quickly search, want to find that information. Mm-hmm. It's right there. And, to be able to stay within that same interface and not have to, like we had previously, if I was using probably what you'd consider the classic forms and having to go then into Interactive Service Hub to create my knowledge base articles so I get that graphical interface. I'm just doing it right here. I don't have to open up a separate window and edit in one screen and then go use it in another. I like that it's all together.
And also with this, if you're using the cognitive services for document recommendations, this also could be leveraged in that same manner, correct?
Yes, I absolutely. Just knowing, even if you're not utilizing the capability, the fact that we have tracking to see how many times people are viewing articles and rating articles and linking them. I mean, there's so much power behind this. I'm so excited that they keep bringing this to the forefront.
Well, yeah, because for a while there, it kind of seemed like they were falling on the wayside. In the 2011 timeframe, there was so many things that we needed from KB articles, and then we get the Interactive Service Hub that gave us a nice UI and a better way to author, but you still had the old one, and so it's nice to see that it's done and dusted, and we're able to really navigate, author, approve in a seamless fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Mohammed, do you have many implementations where you're implementing the knowledge base articles?
I do, specifically when it comes to call centers. As you know, with call centers, there are many types of scripts and standard templates that call center agents want to read out. They don't want to be switching, as Sarah mentioned, switching to another screen or a completely different system, searching for the relevant knowledge base article or the relevant script, and then starting to read it out. It's actually there, and just the ability to have this at the right step and the right stage within a business process flow is really useful. And also the ability to do this by hashtags. If you can go in and create your knowledge bases and you try to filter them using hashtags rather than just free text, and that really helps a lot, especially if your organization requires a lot of knowledge base articles to use.
Right. Yeah, and the additional authoring, the rich text, authoring tools, all of that is now available with 9.0.2, and I'm just going to say spring release. I think that's easier for me to not miss a dot. But the additional capabilities for knowledge managers and authors to monitor their status. I'm really happy about the enhancements with knowledge articles. In my current project, we're going to have that. This is a big deal. So these kind of features and enhancements are really going to make my life as an implementer easier, to give my client tools that will help them out. And we talked about how Customer Service Hub replaces Interactive Service Hub. Some things to remember with Interactive Service Hub. If you're an organization using Interactive Service Hub on 2016 on-prem or online update 1, and Dynamics 365 online and on-prem, you have to be at update 2.1 to be eligible to upgrade to 9.0 during the CDU schedule, customer-driven update schedule. So if you have not upgraded from an earlier version than 2016, you need to make sure you get that done. And there's more information on how to update for the Customer Service Hub enhancements in the release notes. So I think lastly on the customer service side, we have, well, there's a little more, but one of the big ones is going to be Unified Service Desk. And it does say unified. Thank you. Oof. So one of the cool things in here, and it's in a public preview, is the unified interface apps integrate with Unified Service Desk. So, having that unified interface app integrate with USD gives you a consistent user experience, customizable layouts, agent guidance, line of business apps, and channel integration, which is really important, especially if you're integrating from multiple sources or you have a kind of a more complex call center where maybe you're not integrating to AX for your ERP. Maybe you're integrating to SAP or Oracle or JD Edwards, right? And your customer service agents need to access order information in those systems. This gives you a better way to bring that to the forefront in USD and to integrate more seamlessly, which I'm excited about.
Absolutely, and there's the performance enhancements as well, Shawn. That I think it's a big step forward. We were talking during the MVP summit with the team who are out behind USD, and one of the things they've done recently, a variety of new improvements that could lead to up to 30 to 40% improvement in performance. So it's a massive improvement to performance, and also the fact that you've got this best practice analyzer. I don't know, maybe you want to talk about this in more detail, but I think this practice analyzer will help a lot when we are deploying and we're having issues or things are slow, and we don't know why they are slow. This analyzer can help us a lot to find out what are the issues that we have.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an invaluable tool, especially for integrators and developers to understand if they're not getting the performance that they're getting, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Where is that? Why is that the case? And, just because, we have to keep in mind, just because Microsoft says it's a best practice doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to be a best practice. But
very true.
It starts us in the right path, right? It gives us a heads up on where the investigation needs to start and what we need to do with that. So, I'm excited about those enhancements.
I think when we spoke to the team about this specifically, they were saying it's almost like they're doing it to help us decide whether it's actually an issue with USD itself, which a lot of people say, oh, there is a problem with USD itself, or it's something in our code that it might be causing this issue. And there are lots of plugins and workflows and custom actions and so on that could be causing issues, and we are not sure. It might work perfectly fine on a web client, but it doesn't work as we expect it to be on USD. So that kind of best practice analyzer, maybe we disagree on the name best practice, but that analyzer will really help us to define where the issues are, identify the issues, and try to resolve them.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I can definitely speak to that right now. It is a challenge. Is it scripts that's being inserted by USD causing the issue, or is it our scripts? Are we doing things synchronously that's slowing things down, or asynchronously? Exactly what do we need to change? And it's hard to do that right now. It's hard to try to isolate that when you're troubleshooting without just simply starting over back to basics and rebuilding, just the functionality that you need to pare it down, taking out your scripts. It's kind of difficult to troubleshoot that right now, and I'm really looking forward to having that capability to see what do they say we should be doing.
Right. Yeah, it'll be good to see what the output is of the best practice analyzer, to see and get some real world information on what it returned and how it helped us. I think that'll definitely be a follow up in the future for us on the podcast. So leaving the customer service piece, we're still within customer service as far as one of our 3 pillars. But the next thing I want to talk about is the Dynamics 365 portal. So with the Spring 18 release, this improves the search experience to be able to search within attachments, which is fantastic. Additionally, there's some improved debugging, which makes troubleshooting easier for developers, which is great. But the searchable attachments for knowledge articles, this is really cool because especially for a customer, they're not necessarily going to know the keywords that we're coding to search by a subject or a title, right? They want to get much more like a Google search for all intents and purposes. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry for you Microsofties. I know you want me to say Bing, but come on. So by having that capability, it's giving you a much richer return of the search for those customers in your portal, and giving you potential to make a great hit on a knowledge base article, which could avoid a call into your help desk and have a faster time to resolution.
Absolutely. I think one of the challenges always from a customer service implementation standpoint is the search. I'm not getting the results I'm expecting. Mm-hmm. And you're exactly right. So how can we better serve this? And I'm just looking at the screenshot that's included here, obviously highlighting the phrases that we're searching for. Mm-hmm. Being able to see that's a huge thing, because when we're working with a customer and they're saying, well, we're searching for this word and we're not seeing why is this article coming up? Well, here it's because it's right here. You can see that. Right. I think that gives your customer, your users, more visibility, so they know that, okay, yes, this is not just because it's a portion of the word, like if I'm typing the word, customer or something, or like or team or test or something like that. Right. Why is this coming up? I get much more visibility into my results.
And it's great that this kind of capability is part and parcel of the portal that just comes with it, right? Mm-hmm. This is not additional expense for you to get this capability. It's out of the box, which is great. That with the troubleshooting improvements provided to developers and the ability to create custom error messages, which I think that from a customer service standpoint is fantastic as well, because not all error messages that might pop up in the UI are meaningful to your customers, mm-hmm. right? You having the ability to put real world actual normal nomenclature in your error messages to help advise the client that is accessing that page to know what's going wrong and how they need to proceed is, it's fantastic. Mm-hmm. I think
I like your phrasing of nomenclature. That's exactly right, or more user friendly would be pretty much what you're going for. Absolutely, yeah. That capability is awesome.
And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't say, for the portal, there's GDPR functionality.
Yes.
But moving on. Next up, and I think this is the last piece of the customer service enhancements, which, we've been talking 40 minutes, and that should tell you how much stuff is in this release, right? And how the stuff we're talking about isn't just fluff pieces. It's real solid functionality, which is fantastic for the spring release. So the last bit I want to talk about in terms of customer service is voice of the customer enhancements. So I will be honest, I have not used voice of the customer that much. I rely on Joel Lindstrom for that. He's typically my voice of the customer guru. But it looks, based on the functionality that's being released, that there's quite a few really solid pieces here. The Spring 18 release gives you the ability to include cascade deletion of surveys, survey translation enhancements, the ability to dynamically insert question responses into subsequent questions, which I think is really powerful, and improve analytic capabilities for the customer analytics content pack for Power BI, which is fantastic, because the ability to analyze the responses from your surveys, having even more capability for that, that's just great. But from your guys' perspective, how do you see these enhancements helping your engagements with voice of the customer?
I think from my point of view, I think those enhancements are really useful to have, and I think it's proving that Microsoft is continuing to invest and to improve voice of the customer. So it's becoming an integral part of Dynamics 365. We all know that there are lots of add-ons that we can be used for surveys at the moment that are not voice of the customer, that are kind of competitive to it or complementary to it. But I think just the fact that Microsoft is continuing to invest in those features helps us a lot. The additional part of this is that Microsoft is now supporting a lot more number of responses. And I don't know if this is kind of written anywhere in the release notes, but Microsoft have said that they are now supporting up to 100,000 surveys. There's about 40 times improvement in the number of survey responses. So there's a lot of work that's happening behind the scene that I would say is almost like the plumbing of voice of the customer that allows it to be an enterprise level application as opposed to a quick survey functionality. So I love it, and I think it's great to have those kind of investments moving forward.
I agree, and the one that hits me the most, of course, have not really implemented too much of voice of the customer personally, is the dynamically adding customer responses into questions. So that's taking a response from the person submitting the survey and then adding multiple questions potentially after that based on that input. In the example on the release notes, it's a beverage drinking habit survey, and the question is, which of the following beverages do you drink during the day, tea or coffee? They answer coffee, and then that results in 2 more questions. Right. Whereas, maybe if you go down the T path, you get 2 different questions. Right. So that rather than a standard set of questions that one option always has to be not applicable, which as a survey taker is annoying. This gives you a way to really focus what you're trying to ask your clients and get that out of them in a much more seamless fashion.
Absolutely. I think if you put a lot of time into your surveys, which you can very easily, having that dynamic responsiveness is great. And then as a result of that, putting in all that time to create this and collect this information from your customers, having that content pack for voice of the customer so they can glean those insights. So great. You built this survey. You've collected this information. What are you going to do with it? How are you going to analyze it? And
exactly.
We all know that Power BI is a very beautiful interface, beautiful analytics tool for people. It's a lot more understandable, I think, than probably looking at a list of records or maybe just a simplistic chart or report in Dynamics 365. So I think this is going to give them a lot more power, to better analyze that information.
And Mohammed, I actually have a real life story of a doe-eyed consultant who wanted to just experiment with Power BI, but wasn't sure what to do, and within 15 minutes was able to stand up a Power BI instance and create a basic report. Excellent. And that is none other than Sarah herself. I watched that happen at
doe-eyed. Yeah, I thought you were talking about yourself there for a second.
No.
Shawn.
when we were at Extreme 365, we were in the app challenge. And one of the parts was we had to, integrate with Power BI. And I'm not going to lie to you. I was like, I can't do it. I don't, I have, at the time, I have Scott Sewell for that. I have people for that. Mm-hmm. But Sarah's like, well, I'll do it. I'm like, fantastic. And she did it. And I was jealous.
Yeah. Well, luckily, we had the CRM chart guy there to help as well. Yeah, well, so that was awesome.
Well, that didn't hurt.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves. That didn't hurt having Ulrich there. But, But he only had to come in for something really weird.
That's true.
That was the way that the wording was put in and where the parentheses
the type of apostrophe or tick mark. Yeah, it was
crazy. Yeah. It was how would we have known that? But it's given me encouragement to take that step and maybe learn something about Power BI at some point in the future. But I will say I did dabble a little bit this week with the field service content pack. getting that installed, set up, connected. So I did feel pretty good about that. But I didn't generate any data, so I'm not quite there yet. So, but you know what? That is all of the customer service enhancements in this release, and that was 46 minutes of content. I tell you, that's a lot of stuff. So here's what I'm going to propose. Why don't I have you guys back in the next episode, and we'll wrap up field service and project service. Does that sound all right?
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
All right. Then with that, on behalf of my guest, Mohammed, and the diva herself, Sarah, I am Shawn Tabor, and as always, we are at your service. On behalf of myself, Shawn Tabor, my co-host, Scott LaFonte, and the Dynamics 365 diva, Sarah Jelinek, we thank you for listening and subscribing to the podcast. You can reach us at voice@crm.audio. On Twitter, you can follow us, CRM Hobbit for me, for Scott, at FLD Service_Guru, and of course, at Dyn365 Diva for Sarah. For more information and content about what we spoke about on this episode and others, visit our blog at atyourservicepod.com. This has been At Your Service on the CRM Audio Network, a production of Dynamic Podcasts, LLC.